Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and in this video I'm going to be giving you my thoughts on Phaenna, the second planet in the Cosmic Exploration series in Final Fantasy XIV Dawn Trail. For those who haven't been keeping up with everything Dawn Trail, Cosmic Exploration is exactly as it sounds. We're exploring other planets throughout the cosmos, and when we get to them, we have to build out a base, make sure that we can survive the harsh conditions, and it's basically endgame crafting and gathering content. So you go there and you craft items for them to use around the base, or you gather items for them to use around the base. There's a few random events. I'm not going to get all the way into it because I have a video on Cosmic Exploration itself, but Phaenna's the second planet, and the first Cosmic Exploration definitely had some things that were going for it, but quite a lot of issues when it came to the longevity of the content and the ability to actually enjoy it. So with this being the second planet, how is it actually doing? Is it a notable improvement over the first one? And is it going to be something that we should look forward to for the remainder of the expansion, as we still have 2 more planets in 7.4x and 5x? Well, that's what I'm going to talk about in this video. So I would summarize my thoughts on Phaenna as more of the same, but a little bit better. The thing that's really difficult to judge Phaenna on its own merits for is that it's actually the benefactor of a lot of overall changes that also took place on Sinus Adorum, the first location that we explored in this content. Those changes include EXP values being the same regardless of the rating on your mission, so you can get bronze, silver, or gold. Now you just get the same EXP even if you score a bronze, so leveling has vastly improved, but that's also true on Sinus Adorum. The ability to mount right away, mounting was added to Sinus Adorum in 7.3, but you know, if you didn't go back there, you may not be aware of it, so you may come back here and think, oh, you can actually mount right away now, but that's the same on both planets. One of the big ones is when a gatherer finishes a mission, they actually instantly regain all the GP that they spent during the mission. So it basically becomes a full-on GP restore. And it also resets the cooldown of your cordial. So the gathering gameplay loop has been vastly improved. But again, same on Sinus Adorum. There's better communication for sequential missions. That is an absolutely massive one, because sequential missions were just so obscurely hidden before, but same deal on Sinus Adorum. And finally, mech ops and emergency missions have an NPC to teleport you right to the spot instead of having to walk every time. I'm sure there are more things, like there were a lot of changes made overall to Cosmic Exploration to make it way more enjoyable. And I can say this, the fact that all of these changes made me feel so much better going through the initial parts of Phaenna. Tell me that if it had been that way on the moon, it probably wouldn't have been as negatively received. But even with that in mind, Phaenna does have some of its own things going for it, and some things that make it stand out from Sinus Adorum, even if you were to go back and forth between them right now. One of the big things is that Phaenna's overall difficulty does feel lower for the normal and EX missions, with only the EX Plus missions now providing any sort of real challenge or RNG mitigation that needs to be posed to it. That's probably for the better, because a lot of people do kind of more casually want to get into this content. And that was actually a pretty rough feeling on the moon. It felt like even as I was leveling, not that it was like hardcore, but that I had to put in a decent amount of effort for something that I was doing super repeat. Like that's the thing, mission takes 2-3 minutes, and then, you know, you're just kind of praying that it works out well and that you get the right RNG to get it done quick. And that, you know, you have to make sure that you're kind of constantly moving throughout it. And certain like crafting and gathering missions were just really unpleasant, even outside of the A-class ones. There were just some that were really annoying, especially fishing. But the overall difficulty of everything in Phaenna generally seems lower, but those EX missions can still be really brutal. If you don't understand expert crafting, then the crafting missions are going to be relatively tough, especially certain ones that actually seem to want you to not only understand how expert crafting works, but kind of almost pray for the right like the right procs to even get in the first place. That's tough. The ethereal reduction missions for gathering, while I have a pretty consistent method of getting at least silver, which is really all you need. Getting gold, you know, I could do that once every few missions depending on how RNG lines up or all my resources, and I'm pentamelded. Like I'm not using the pentamelded main hand tool because I have the cosmic tool, but the fact that I'm pentamelded and it's still so close means, you know, there's a little bit of luck involved with some of these things. That being said, I have been spending most of my time doing the EX Plus missions because they're more interesting and they're more fun, and they're not even that bad to actually grind. A lot of them have much shorter time windows for you to do and much tighter requirements on either your stats or your action usage, and I know it's a little more engaging for me, and I feel a little bit more, I guess, encouraged to do EX Plus missions because they added a new type of reward token that is exclusive to EX Plus missions. You basically get these tokens, and for 6,000 of them total, you can buy some booklets, and then with the booklets, you can buy a hoverboard mount. And having that little bit of extra kind of reward tied to only the most difficult missions is a nice touch. Things like that always motivate me. You put a decent mount behind something, and I'm most likely to go out of my way to do it. And the best part is this isn't really required for the completion of the tool. It's a nice bonus for anyone geared and patient enough just to do the harder missions. But if you're someone who doesn't want that really higher end experience, and you don't want to have to push your attention to that level, then you could still get all your tools. You could collect all your upgrades and not have to worry so much about putting so much effort into this additional content. I do think it's probably still a little too easy to obtain these. Like, I'm not gonna lie, right before recording this, I went from like 1,100 of these tokens to almost 5,000 in the matter of 2 hours, and it's 6,000 for a hoverboard. But I will say this, as less people do it, the value should stabilize well. And if they keep doing this for the subsequent 2 remaining planets, and you have to work on that resource for that specific planet, and they're not interchangeable, then it kind of corrects itself in terms of long-term market value. There's a lot of things to sell across 4 different planets, all with a mostly different resource kind of gating each of them, that it should turn out okay in the long run. This might actually be a good money-making feature going forward, just because there's just not going to be that many people doing cosmic exploration all the time in subsequent expansions. And the difficulty of the higher missions means it's not super reliable how you can actually get things done, so the player really kind of needs to be there and paying attention. So, I mean, I always like that. I like when there's more things introduced to the economy that are valuable to players, that hold long-term value, because that gives the content long-term value. One of the features in Cosmic Exploration is Mech Ops, and the reward value is slightly improved for pilots in particular here. Basically, you used to spend 1,000 lunar credits and then get like 1,200 Cosmo credits and a Big Bang Fortune ticket. Sometimes you would outright get something from the Cosmic Fortune ticket, but for the most part, like, it just didn't seem worth it. And now you get more Cosmo credits, you get 1,800, and quite frankly, there's a lot more to buy with Cosmo credits here. So I actually find the prospect of getting more Cosmo credits to be better as a whole. Like, I actually want Cosmo credits, so getting those extra, 1,800 in exchange for the lunar, not to mention because you get the Fortune ticket back for the 1,000, which is the only thing you would have spent the lunar tickets on, the lunar tokens on anyway. It's effectively a much better gain. So I feel a lot better about going out into the Mech Ops. Also, the base Phaenna credits here, man, I gotta talk about those. They added a mount for 29,000 of them. There's outfits, dyes, not to mention a handful of things that I already need. Like, I need to keep stocked on cordials because I just don't do enough crafting and gathering content as a whole. And I'm able to do all of that here. So again, with the addition of even more zones, each with their own base credit, I'm really hoping that the value of these credits stays fairly high, and that people feel good about coming back in here and making gil or visiting the content somewhere down the line just to get a feel for it, maybe to make the tools just because they like the way they look or whatever really motivates them. I don't know. I will say that overall, though, the big thing with Phaenna is that it is very much identical to Sinus Adorum. Almost too much. Perhaps something more transformative gameplay-wise would make things a little bit better. I mean, crafting is only going to allow you to do so much, right? It doesn't matter how much you're crafting or what systems they have in place. If you know how to craft, you know how to craft, and you can just make a bunch of macros and do all the basic crafts, and then expert crafting is up to you, whether that's something you even want to do, especially given the ease of doing the Gathering EX Plus missions against the relative difficulty of the Crafting EX Plus missions. And for Gathering, I like the Gathering here because it's just it's faster paced, and with the reset, you can just kind of go. And so it works, but I don't know. Maybe something a little bit more transformative gameplay-wise would be nice. Like Mech Ops, you don't even craft or gather for either of them. And Red Alerts are like really simple, gathering or crafting requirements that just take about 30 to 40 seconds to do. So they just don't offer anything that's too drastically different. It's really just the pacing and the speed of the whole thing. The only thing in place that kind of works are the stellar actions, which just give you, you know, the ability to do some of these tougher EX Plus missions a little more reliably. Like I use the Stellar Collection option for Gatherers to give myself a, you know, to give myself a proc, to give myself a better chance of getting an integrity save and to increase the quality of my collectibles just that little bit more. But that's not really transformative. And what I mean by that is this is kind of like the exploration content equivalent for crafters and gatherers. There's a lot of resources going into it. So I'd like to see them just try something a little bit different, you know? Like maybe for gathering, there's like a random occurrence where like a cave opens up and the walls are unstable. So there's like cave-ins occurring while you're trying to gather resources, right? And if you get hit, you drop some of the resources that you've actually gathered. So you have to be a little bit careful. You have to be willing to navigate the caves more carefully and try to avoid obstacles in between your gathering to put a little more pressure. And I don't think it needs to kill the player. It just needs to affect your overall output. Or for crafting, maybe there's like recipes with etheric imbalances, and the etheric imbalances can change based on like rapidly changing weather conditions in the far reaches of space. And so maybe as part of one of the expansions to the base, you can make these crafting stations where if you stand in them, it, you know, gives you more electric etheric imbalance. Like it like corrects the etheric imbalances in some way, and you need to know which ones to stand in. And then you're still kind of crafting, but I don't know. At the very least, that's like mildly more transformative. It would make the base expansion feel better instead of just making it appear different and maybe add some more hoppers to get further out, which is basically the main reason why you're expanding the base. I would just like to see it used to expand the way that we play crafters and gatherers. And I think that's kind of the big thing that people want overall with crafting and gathering, is that, you know, we've kind of run its course on what it is, right? It's been mathed out, it's been worked out. It doesn't really change in any way. And I'm not saying it really needs to change, because crafting and gathering is normally a pretty basic thing in most MMOs. But I think this is the opportunity to do something more with it. There's been a lot of talk going back to the Diadem, which was originally combat content, and then they tried to mix combat and crafting and gathering, and eventually just moved it entirely over to crafting and gathering because they just couldn't find the balance. But I feel like crafters and gatherers, and even non-crafters and gatherers who want to be more motivated to do it, are looking for content that kind of bridges the gap between the two and gets crafters and gatherers more involved in something. Like, what if there was a base defense mode of some kind? And while you have your combat jobs out fighting, you know, taking care of the enemies, you know, you could have crafters and gatherers deal with weaknesses in the, you know, gatherers need to get resources, and then crafters need to, like, I don't know, fix up a hole in a wall that the enemies blew wide open, or make cannonballs for the cannons so that they can assist the people who are actually on the front lines, or something along those lines. I think that's kind of the big thing that Cosmic needs to start trending towards, is, again, something more that isn't just crafting and gathering, or isn't as simple as that, but is a bit more, again, unfortunately the word transformative I've said a million times, but it's just the best word that I could think for this. Overall, I think as a feature, this is okay. I enjoy gathering in here. I'm not huge on crafting, but I'm okay with doing it in here either. I've done it with macros, without macros, but I'm not big on expert crafts. The rewards are significantly improved. There's new rewards, 3 different mounts. You know, the Cosmic Fortunes are back, and those are fine. And, you know, again, the Cosmo credits, already mentioned the rewards for those, and, you know, the additional thing. And all the progress here, there's an achievement that was introduced in the first tier in Sinus Adorum, that, you know, you need 500,000 points on every single crafter and gatherer in order to earn a reskin of the basic, like, mech suit that's there. And it does, as most people, you know, suspected, the credit here does count towards that. So as each zone releases, we are going to get closer to just kind of naturally obtaining that. And then at the end of the expansion, we can put any remaining effort in. While that reskin of amount was not something that most people were really as excited about, I guess it makes a little more sense for it just to be a reskin when you have 4 zones worth of progress that'll naturally contribute towards it, and then you have to finish it off. But that's still really kind of the one big slip up, is making a mount that was so close to the original, and it being like, it's been in the game for a while now, so people have it. So that was another thing that probably could have been done differently, a bit better. But at the very least, this does start counting towards that progress, so I'm making very steady progress towards it and will continue to make it as each zone releases. and I'm looking forward to contributing to it in some degree. But overall, more of the same. If you didn't like the first one, other than experiencing a lot of the quality of life, you'll probably feel very similarly to this one. If you didn't like the Gathering in particular, I at least recommend going and trying out the Gathering now, because with the 7.3 changes, it feels great. And the hoverboard token, it does not take very long at all to farm if you don't want to spend the however much gil. I think I saw it was like 8 mil on my server last time I checked. It's probably going to keep going down a little bit. It might equalize soon as people kind of move away from doing Cosmic on the various different servers, but all the same, I enjoy it for what it is, but it's definitely not content for me at the same time. Like, I can't do it for more than like an hour or two at a time, and I don't really want to in the first place. And when you're going to do a major feature like this, I feel like you really want to have even your non-crafters and gatherers maybe take a look at it and go, oh, okay, maybe I'll give that a shot. And I don't think they've really found that here, and I didn't even think they were really looking for that here in the first place. So I didn't hold that expectation, but that's just kind of how I feel about it now after having done 2. I will do the 2 remaining planets. I will do all of my cosmic tools. You know, I do every relic now, and I'm trying to make that a crafting and gathering consistency as well, where I do every crafting and gathering relic. Probably going to go back and do the old ones, but I'm otherwise just, that's okay. Oh, and you know what? The zone looks better, and the music is also way better here. So I got to give them credit on that. I love the background music. It almost sounds like it's from Play Online from Final Fantasy XI. And the planet itself is way more interesting than seeing Sinus Adorum, because I'd already have enough of the moon as it was. I didn't need to have moon again, which is all Sinus Adorum was. So on a lot of those regards, this is also definitely a lot better. So yep, just overall slightly better, but very much identical to the original and not transformative enough, in my opinion. But let me know what you think in the comment section of the video below. Be sure to like and subscribe and stay tuned. We've got plenty of news and coverage coming for Final Fantasy XIV in the coming months. As, you know, there's been so many interviews, and we've got the new Quantum feature coming out, the Monster Hunter collaboration. We got some things on the horizon. But anyway, that's going to be a wrap. I'll see all of you in the next one. Until then, take care.